Donald Trump's health continues to deteriorate before our eyes. Now, fortunately, some members of the press corps are fed up with the cover-up taking place, and they're beginning to ask the right questions. These are questions we've been asking at the MeidasTouch network for weeks now. In fact, we've been asking them for years. Remember, though, when Donald Trump showed up at Walter Reed a few weeks back, and at first, Donald Trump's propagandist Karoline Leavitt said, oh, it's his annual physical. We called it out and we said, I think he had that annual physical in April, and they produced that really weird report that said, oh, he's really healthy, and you can tell by the fact that he wins golf championships. And I said, that doesn't seem like a real medical report. Then the White House reported, oh, the issues that you see with his rotting hand and those massive ankles of his and the calves and all of those issues, that's chronic venous insufficiency. But they said, don't worry, it's just because he shakes a lot of hands. No mini strokes, no cardiovascular issues. Okay, sure, I don't think we were really all buying that. And then they said he was getting another physical. They said it was at first the annual physical taking place at Walter Reed. Then we said, nah, he already took the physical. They said, okay, it's the semi-annual physical. And then I guess Ronnie Jackson wasn't read on to that new plan. And Ronnie Jackson said, no, it's for the chronic venous insufficiency. Oh, Ronnie, you may want to talk to the White House about what they're saying it was. In any event, when we read the report, you'll recall right away we did a video on this here at the MeidasTouch Network. And one of the things that stood out in an otherwise bogus report, and just I'm giving you my opinion, is because I don't really see medical reports that look like this, but it talked about how Donald Trump was getting advanced imaging done. They said advanced imaging done, and you don't normally get advanced imaging done just for routine physicals. And advanced imaging, an MRI or a CT scan, is usually done when there are serious issues at play. So one of the things that we said is, can some member of the press ask the question about what the advanced imaging is? And sure enough, yesterday, a member of the press asked that question and asked, so can you tell us more details about this visit? What was the advanced imaging that the doctor mentioned? You'll see that Donald Trump's chief propagandist, Karoline Leavitt, yesterday responds, advanced imaging is something that happens all the time that presidents receive and people receive when they go to the doctor. When people go for their annual physical, Karoline, they don't get advanced imaging. Like, do you think we're all just stupid? Like, that's not what happens at a normal annual or semi-annual, if that's even a thing, physical. Watch what she says here. Play this clip.
Any more details on the president's Walter Reed visit? The readout from his doctor mentioned advanced imaging. What procedure was he referring to?
Advanced imaging is something that presidents receive and people receive when they go to the doctor. And so we provide a detailed readout of that physical. And I would encourage you back to that. Presidents and I don't know the exact imaging that took place. And
then I think she realized that she screwed up there. So she had to double down because Donnie may be watching. And so she goes, look, let me just reiterate. The president's in great shape. You all see him, right? He's in great shape. We see him. He doesn't look in great shape. There are some days where his mouth looks really droopy, where his hand looks like he stuck it in a piranha tank, where his legs look the size of balloons. He can't walk in straight lines. He zigzags around, and he brags about cognitive exams as he can't even put sentences together. But anyway, here's what she says. Let's play this clip right here.
As the physician's note said, the president is in incredibly good shape, and I think that's evidenced here every single day.
Here is the report where it talked about the advanced imaging. This is from October 10th, 2025, and you'll see right there. And it talked about this advanced imaging that went down, which again is not normal. Yesterday as well, I'll just give you an example where it seems that like everybody around, I'm just giving you my opinion. I could share my opinions. You're entitled to your opinion. So I'm saying this is my opinion, that everybody around Donald Trump also knows that his brain is done. It's cooked. And at this press conference yesterday, while he has Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem there, and he has a Secretary of Defense who unlawfully refers to himself as Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Trump also has his chief of staff there. And Trump starts telling a story about how because the government is shut down, Trump says an anonymous donor gave him $130 million to give to the military. And he starts looking around. He's like, I got $130 million, right? Now, what I want to show you here is what I focused on and what I had our editorial team focus on. Look at Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem. Look at Hegseth. Hegseth looks like he just hates Donald Trump. Look at Trump's chief of staff as Trump's looking around like, someone just gave me $130 million, right? That to give to the military because of the government shutdown. I'm not going to tell you who he is. Watch this and you'll see them around like looking around like, oh my God, he's doing this again. Oh my God. Here, play this clip.
He doesn't really want the recognition, if you want to know the truth. But he gave us a check for $130 million.
And that's going to go to the,
which was sort of a shortfall, yeah. And that's going to go to the military, yeah.
And what's your message?
Is that the correct number? $130 million. That's what I call a patriot. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
And then as part of that press conference, just give you an example. Like it's all in plain view what's happening, right? Like we all can see it. I mean, he says the word cartel and then he goes, somebody came up with that word. That's usually the way words work, Donald. Somebody comes up with the word. What do you mean somebody came up with the word cartel? And then Donald goes, I'm not going to tell you who came up with the word. I'm going to keep it a secret from you, but cartels are bad. You're not going to tell us who invented the word cartel? What the hell does that mean? That's who invented the word cartel? What do you, it's been around for a very long time, Donald. Here, play this clip.
We have cartels that, somebody came up with the word cartel. I won't tell you who that person was, but you got a lot of bad people in the cartels. And
now and I think rightfully so, not just the press asking the right questions, Democratic governors asking the right questions. You had J.B. Pritzker this past weekend saying it's really clear that Donald Trump has diminished capacity, which is sad. And the people around him are enabling this. And you saw some of those people around him in that previous clip, right? They're laughing. They were laughing and you saw Hegseth, right? You know that look. You know that look on Hegseth. You've seen that look before in certain circumstances, right? Here's what Pritzker says. Let's play it.
Let's go about something that's related but slightly different. I mean, you appear to be, I guess a way to put it is under the skin of Trump's anti-migrant czar, Stephen Miller. He called you a moron who hates America. You mentioned him a few times today, too, saying he has abused the fact that Donald Trump has diminished capacity. You brought him up a couple of times, which was interesting. But what did you mean by that?
Well, I very plainly, it's clear that Donald Trump has diminished capacity, which I think is sad, that the people around him are not getting him help, and instead they're just taking advantage of him. And that's what Stephen Miller is. You can tell, his rhetoric is so out of bounds. And then we know that he's the one who is advising Kristi Noem at DHS. He's the one who's advising Tom Homan, who's the kind of immigration czar, deportation czar. And of course, he's the spokesperson for this entire endeavor, including about deploying National Guard into cities. So, it seems like a dangerous individual, and he has the power of the presidency because the president isn't reining him in. And so that's why I'm talking about Stephen Miller.
And then there was this headline from the Daily Beast. Trump's cognitive collapse is clear, psychologist says. So Joanna Coles, who's over at Daily Beast, good friend of mine now. She does a great job. She's doing an amazing job at the Daily Beast. Give her a shout out for me, will you? Anyway, she did this great interview with someone from the MeidasTouch network, Dr. John Gartner, who had his podcast on our network. Remember his show on the MeidasTouch network? And Here's the article. Donald Trump is exhibiting a massive increase in clinical signs of dementia, exacerbating the president's malignant narcissism, a psychologist warned. Dr. John Gartner told the Daily Beast that the 79-year-old's nonsensical speeches, repeated confusion, and frequent lapses in memory are flashing signs of immense cognitive decline. The former Johns Hopkins professor said the president's deterioration is only disinhibiting his grandiosity and paranoia, and warned that with the nuclear football in Trump's possession, it would really be impossible to overstate the grave risk that we are all in right now. Gartner told host Joanna Coles that because of his cognitive decline, Trump is focusing on things like the White House ballroom and the paper that he writes things on. We're seeing a stone skipping along the water. He's going from one association to another, but it doesn't make any linear sense, the co-host of the podcast, Shrinking Trump, said. Also, shout out to Really American. And we do that joint collab with Really American Meidas. Take a look at what he said here. Play this clip.
The other thing, though, about his recent talks is we talked about his confusing Harvard and Harlem. Recently, he's been confusing India and Iran. You know, he's been talking about Pakistan being at war with Iran, and he's trying to broker a peace. And he says Iran several times when he's talking about India.
As an example, if you look at Pakistan and Iran, I told them I was in the midst of negotiating a trade deal with Iran, and Pakistan was going to be in line.
Well, Chris, what do those two countries have in common? You know, they begin with I.
Right.
Sort of like Harvard and Harlem. So that's the level of free association we're talking about.
And is that just because he's the president and he's got a lot of details to keep on top of? I mean, I agree that getting India and Iran confused is potentially a deadly mistake. But is there any benefit of the doubt you could give him that he's, trying to master a ton of detail here?
Well, look, as an older person, I tend to give people a lot of benefit of the doubt. I mean, even on my own podcast, sometimes I say, oh, yeah, the person from Germany, what's his name? Then we have to edit that out. But he tends to mishmash them together in a way that shows a deeper level of thought disorder. For example, the other thing he was saying about India and Pakistan is he's saying, well, I think he's starting to say India now. He's saying, well, India's had a lot of change of leadership. They haven't really been stable. That's true of Pakistan. It's not true of India. So first he confuses their names. Then he confuses the countries themselves, their political leadership and their history. So it's one thing to get a name wrong, maybe even to reverse it, although that still seems very rare, but he's actually confusing the countries themselves. Another example of this kind of really clearly demented memory loss would be when he was negotiating the government shutdown. He met with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, right, the minority leader of the House and the Senate. And he said, yeah, I had a talk with, Chuck Schumer, and he brought a very nice man with him who I didn't know.
He didn't know Hakeem Jeffries?
Yeah, he knows Hakeem Jeffries. Okay, he's not an obscure congressman. He's the minority leader. He deals with him on an almost daily basis. This is like when you go to visit your mother in the nursing home and you bring your sister and she goes, who's that nice lady that you brought with you? Oh, honey, that's your daughter. That's my sister.
Wow.
It's that level of non-recognition that we're talking.
And then here's another clip of what Gartner said. Here, play this clip.
Trump, because of his cognitive decline, is focusing on things like the ballroom and the paper that he writes things on. If any of you have ever had someone who in your family or friends who had dementia, one of the things you'll notice is they'll pick up on one concrete physical detail, and then they'll free associate to that detail, completely leaving the conversation, whatever the original topic of the conversation was. Let's set the stage. He's brought 1,200 generals from around the world, right? For this very important meeting. And you have to forgive me, I automatically go into my Trump voice when I do this. When I have a general and I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, gorgeous paper, I said, put a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. We used to sign that piece of garbage. I said, this guy's going to be a general, right? I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing. After all the work you do to become a general or an admiral, that commission is beautifully displayed, and I sign it. You know, I actually love my signature. Everybody loves my signature, but I sign it very proudly. And I think to myself, how can you have an auto pen do this? So disrespectful to me. It's totally disrespectful. As it turns out, almost everything he did was by auto pen, except when he gave his son Hunter a pardon. He signed that one. Actually, it's the worst signature I've ever seen. The auto pen looks better. It's right there in plain sight. We're all seeing it, but no one's calling it. It's like the emperor has no brain, but the media is afraid to say it. The professionals are afraid to say it.
Now, I shared with you before this clip from 2019-2020. This right here is Dr. David Shiner, former President Obama's physician. Donald Trump made that unannounced visit to Walter Reed Medical Center back in 2019, and many suspected at the time that that was one of his first sets of mini strokes. People speculated. And here's how Dr. Shiner describes it. Here, play this clip.
His inability to say words sometimes worries me tremendously. He is having trouble word finding when he said United States instead of United States. These aren't words. These aren't slips of the tongue. These are words he can't find them. And this is happening over and over again. Comedians joke about it, but it's not a joking matter. I think there is a neurological issue that is not being addressed. And if he had an MRI of his head over there, I would be very pleased because I think he needs it.
Is that something that could have happened in the 2-hour time he was there?
Yes, it certainly could. And it's the worry that I have is that maybe he's having small strokes. And, we had that once before in the White House when Woodrow Wilson was president. His inability to find words is peculiar and has not been explained. And I think one has to think of it as a possible neurological issue.
Now, just to remind you about the chronic venous insufficiency, you see there with the ankles, you see there with the hand. This is how Caroline Levitt described it, so you can hear in her words. Here, play this clip.
Many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it.
Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom also described what his phone call was like with Donald Trump before Trump sent the National Guard in. And he describes how Trump would zigzag into all of these topics, the weave, and how bizarre it was that Trump couldn't even hold a conversation as he was doing something as serious as sending the military to invade California. Here, play this clip right here.
A call that you might have been aware that this was coming, or can you confirm whether or not you knew that this was coming, this order was coming?
Of course not. Yeah, no, absolutely not. We were back and forth with Susie Wiles as chief of staff. I then called mayor of Los Angeles, saw a missed call from the president, called him back. I actually texted him back. You want full disclosure? And he called me right back. We discussed for a nanosecond Los Angeles, and he immediately zigged and zagged into 7 or 8 other topics, some extraordinarily familiar, and some extraordinarily remarkable considering the world we're living in.
When you hear Donald Trump say things like, I've seen Portland, it's totally burning, it's burning to the ground, all of it. Like, it's not burning to the ground. There's small clashes near one ICE building, as Daniel Dale says, in a 145 square mile city. Federal agents were the ones who actually used the tear gas and smoke Saturday. The Oregonian reported their canisters sparked small fires from ICE. They're creating the situation in that one little block, tiny block, in a massive city. But here he goes again. Here he says this. Here, play this clip.
Same thing with Portland, speaking of that, because that's where we won it. But, I looked the other night, Saturday night, Portland is like burning to the ground, and these people are saying it's just friendly stuff. The whole place is burning to the ground. So we'll take care of that one. That's like an insurrection more than it is anything else. That's crazy. Portland's crazy.
And then finally, he talks about now raising $350 million for the ridiculous ballroom after tearing down the East Wing. But just think about, this guy's obsessed with a freaking ballroom. We're doing balls? Just even think about it. Wait, why? People are going to wear their beautiful gowns into the freaking ballroom? What the hell are you talking about, dude? People in this country have real issues right now, man. People are losing their health care. People are starving. People are suffering. People can't afford their rent. The ballroom. He's not there mentally, man. He's not there. Here, play this clip.
Have you raised the full $300 million needed to fund your ballroom? And how much specifically are you donating to this construction project?
I think $350 million. All donor money and money that we put up. We've raised, it's going to cost right in the neighborhood of $300 million. It's been expanded and made it'll be the most beautiful ballroom anywhere in the world, I think.
And how much specifically are you donating to it personally?
How much am I donating? I won't be able to tell you until I finish, but I'll donate whatever's needed. I'll tell you that.
There you have it, folks. You could put it all together. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million, and thank you so much for watching. New Midas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.